Hey, it's John Nolan here. One of the most important things in my life is the health and the well-being of my family. And one of the products that we absolutely love to use and have had amazing results with is Z-Stack. It's Dr. Zelenko's Immunobooster, and it really does the job absolutely well. Now, as most of you know, Dr. Zelenko recently passed away, but he's left behind a legacy with Z-Stack and his other products, and also the Dr. Zelenko Freedom Foundation. So every time you purchase Z-Stack to help boost your immune system and the immune system of your family, 10% of the profits will also automatically go to the Freedom Foundation. So I encourage you to check it out, Z-Stack by Dr. Zelenko. Use the link and the coupon code in the description, save, and also help the foundation. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us for an inspired conversation. And today I am so happy and excited to introduce someone very special to you, former model, filmmaker, and our wonderful editor, Chris Sauer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, John. It's really an honor to be on the other side of the word today.
Well, most people on our channel might not be familiar with you yet, but they're familiar with your work because all the editing, everything that you see in our videos, all the wonderful work, the beautiful trailers, that's Chris doing her magic. And today we wanted to have Chris on, first of all, to introduce her to you, but also her story, which is so important. And it is very important, especially because this month, Chris, is something that's very dear and close to your heart. There's an awareness month. And perhaps you want to share a little bit about your story. This is kind of a broad question, but I'll let you start wherever you feel inspired to start.
Okay, yeah, that was a very broad opening. Just, I think, like to stay a little bit more on the topic and why the Domestic Abuse Awareness Month is so dear to my heart. I'm a survivor myself, and it's been, like almost 8 years that it happened, and for so long I've questioned myself and why it happened to me and why me, and then you put yourself in this victim position, which is very disempowering. And so I worked as a fashion model for many years, and I feel like the pressure in every, especially women, you have to be skinny and beautiful and this and that and shiny hair and this, and then when you're a model, this is 100 times worse, right? But that was what I chose to do. So really that pressure leads people to have a very low self-esteem. And then with that, you don't really trust yourself. You don't trust who you are. You don't trust what you do anymore. You become so dependent on other people's opinion about you, about what you do. Am I looking good? Am I looking pretty? Am I doing right? Is a very crazy relationship that you develop with the clients, with the people, with the everyone around you. And then you totally lose your identity. You lose who you are. You literally you depend on other people to tell you who you are. And that's very easy to fall into relationships that are unhealthy, because if you don't know who you are, how are you going to know what you want or what's healthy for you or what you deserve? So I was in this toxic relationship, and the guy ended up becoming my fiance. And, it started with the psychological abuse, which I think can be the hardest part of the abuse, because you don't immediately see that that's a type of abuse. A lot of people, they confuse the abuse with only the physical, but the physical usually comes after a very long time of psychological abuse. And, in my mind, I didn't deserve better, because you hear that you're not enough. And it's oh my God, if I don't marry this guy, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. I'm never going to have a family, because I don't deserve it. Because he says I don't deserve it, therefore I don't deserve it. So this was the level of the low self-esteem that I developed. But then it's interesting, because on the outside, you see, and I have friends that, that are still modeling, and we talk about it. And then it's and they agree with me that people from the outside, they see like you smiling on a picture or like in a cover of a magazine or in a commercial, and then they think that your life is perfect because you want at least somebody to think that your life is perfect, because you know that it's not even remotely what you wish it was, because of the choices that we make. And then it's just like slowly I started to become aware of my choices. But first, something really bad had to happen to me for me to kind of like get that kickstart and it's like, wait a minute, what's wrong here? And instead of like blaming the entire world for what was wrong with me or for my, like all my sadness and my, you know, frustrations and everything that was happening around me, I was like, maybe it's like my choices. How's like, for a change, instead of blaming other people, what about like not really blaming myself, but like taking, you know, being responsible for what I was choosing for my life. And then, so then we ended up in court. It was pretty ugly. And after that, I decided I was having panic attacks and I was a total mess. And I didn't want to stay in my house anymore. So then I put all my stuff in storage and I decided to travel. I'm like, I need some time to get to know myself, because at that point I'm like, who am I? You know, like, what is it? Like, what am I doing with my life? And am I just like wasting time and chasing other people to make me happy, to fulfill something, or to be like my soulmate, so at least I can feel complete?
Okay, allow me to jump in, because I have here's the question in my mind while I'm listening to your story, and I've heard it before, is you are an intelligent woman. You are an attractive woman. Obviously, you went into a line of work where you're, as a model, present that. Where did that start? Because a lot of times we do not necessarily connect people that are in the public eye like that are showing self-esteem and confidence in their work. Where did that begin? Where did that journey begin? And what brought you into modeling? And how do you feel that has it been something that you have developed over the years? Has it been something that's creeped in slowly?
No, actually, before modeling, I was studying civil engineering. I'm the oldest daughter, and my parents, they thought that I was going to be a boy. So then the boys, they have to study something that is like boy-like. And then I started studying civil engineering to kind of like please my dad. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do something to feel accepted again. And this whole acceptance thing is not really to blame parents, but it's like the whole society always have to prove ourselves to somebody. Oh, I cannot disappoint my parents with my choices. And so I tried that, and I stayed, I think I was like for 3.5 years. And then one day, like in a party, like this guy approached me and he's like, oh, like, you're so pretty. And it's like, oh my God, you know, like you could be a model. And I was like, yeah. So I really liked the idea. And then for me, it's like, oh, maybe I'll just travel the world. And my parents, they could not be more disappointed. But I think that was like, in a way, it was good to, over the years, I learned how to be okay disappointing other people, like at least my parents. And then later on, I managed to disappoint them even more. But it was really like kind of like a breakthrough from like, I don't care if you disapprove of me. But then I had to learn later on disapprove other people, or like not care about what they think of me and be okay with that. And not necessarily because we're doing something wrong. It's just like, not everybody's going to approve of us, but they don't have to. That's their opinion. And if you really know what you want, then it's like, fine, I'll keep on doing it. And like, I know this is my soul mission, or like my passion. And it doesn't matter what other people say around you. Right. So I think that's where the whole thing started for me.
So fast forward, you are in a profession, like I said, that's now a lot of people are aware. And I think it's happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years, this awareness that this is one of the, one of those professions where a lot of horrible things happen. And your story is not, unfortunately, it's not a unique story that, you end up in relationships that are very abusive and that kind of, show the worst in humanity rather than the best. But the beautiful thing in your story is that you did make a shift. You didn't just make a shift. You actually told the world about it. So what made you exit the world of beauty to go on the quest for beauty?
It's hard because when you go into the magazines and then you see exactly what people perceive as beauty, and if you look nothing like that, it's like, wow, it's like a slap in the face.
Other people's opinion about me has always changed my perception of myself. Living under the people's microscope really affected my self-esteem. I was never skinny enough or good enough. One day, I saw myself through the eyes of an abuser, and I was finally forced to find beauty for myself. One that will end up saving not only my life, but my soul. I was so desperate to have a purpose, a meaning for still being alive. I wanted to honor the fact that I survived.
To find something beautiful is to respond to it with pleasure. The only thing common to the experience of all the beautiful things is pleasure.
Part of me wanted to experience beauty.
If you have to describe beauty, how would you describe?
It's all God's creation.
Sight is not required to experience beauty.
Beauty is not absolute, it's a cultural thing, but it's a variable.
This is white, and we can pretty much all agree on that. But if it's something invisible, that's why you're making a whole movie about beauty.
Beauty is a birthright.
Just like happiness.
You're born with it. You're born with happiness. You're born with beauty.
I really find beauty within the imperfections.
And this is the story of my quest for beauty.
During all my years of modeling, I always questioned myself. I was like, what does it mean to be beautiful? You know, what is beauty anyway? Because I'll be in a room filled with pretty girls. And then I'm like, they don't care if I went to college. They don't care if I speak other languages. They don't care if I help an institution. They don't help if I'm like a good friend or like if I'm a nice person. You know, all they care is if you fit into the clothes or like if you're the perfect person to represent their brand on the outside. So then I started questioning like slowly, like, what did that mean? And I was never able to answer that question. And I think when the physical abuse happened to me, that kind of like that question, because, you know, he would constantly remind you like, oh, you're looking old, like you're already in your 30s. Oh my God, super old. And if you want to have a family, like, you know, like, and all this kind of stuff. So like, he really knew where my low points were, where my insecurities, where they lived. And I believed that. So then to really like shift from that. And when the abuse happened, I'm like, oh my God, like, why don't I just go on a quest for beauty? Like that was kind of like my excuse to travel the world. And then I felt all of that. Then I started talking to people and interviewing people. Like I traveled to 12 countries and it was like, yeah, you know, everybody had like something to add. So it was like a coloring book, you know, like before it was just black and white, like very shallow, very superficial, like it's how you look, period. And that has an expiration date. That's what fashion, at least like used to be. I think now they want to represent people a little bit more, but they also have their limitations, and also they want to just target the market. And it's not really because they care about this stuff. But then it was like people like from a philosopher, a mathematician, like talking to people on the streets, and it's just like they were putting more colors into the meaning of beauty. But then I felt that there was like something more. And every time, like, I'm like, there's more. And people are not describing it, or I'm not understanding. Where is it? And it became like an obsession. So all of a sudden I just had like this click that I should go to Peru and partake in an ayahuasca ceremony with the locals. So then I spent 10 days with the shamans in the Amazon rainforest. And then there was like another subject that kind of like came in, that was like the fear element. And I didn't understand like how these two, they were kind of correlated. I think I never really thought too much about what fear really meant and how much that can really freeze us, you know? And it was the most magical experience. It was really like when I connected to nature and to everything. I mean, I became vegetarian in the jungle, not because of like all these other like crazy things that people say out there, but it was really like my deep connection with nature and like my conversation with the grandmother, ayahuasca, how they call her. And then I understood that the fear was like what was stopping me from loving myself, because we cannot have fear and love inside. Like the fear is the opposite of love, but love, yeah, you know, they're the two different polarities, even though like love doesn't have a polarity, but like if you could put polarity, it would be fear and love. And then when I understood that, you know, that love was missing inside of me, then I was able to find what beauty really meant. And it was like how I saw the world and how I saw all my choices and how, you know, we're not victims of anything. It's just really like looking inside and checking in to see what are the choices that we're making. Because, you know, our today is really a reflection of our yesterday's choices. And yeah, that was just like so eye-opening.
Do you feel that, and this is always difficult to say without hurting people by saying it, but do you feel that as long as the victim lives inside of you, you are a magnet for abusive situations, whether they play out as, you know, as strongly as becoming, you know, real physical and even life-threatening situations or not? Do you feel that this is the case? And could you feel a shift in your own life when the victim healed inside of you?
Oh, absolutely. Like, because the victim mentality is a very low vibration. So then the low vibration can never attract something that has a higher vibration. So first we have to eliminate the victim. I don't believe in victims, you know, and then it's like, oh, but what about those people that suffer? I'm not saying that anybody deserves to suffer, but it's really like sometimes that suffering, like I'm going to speak for myself. What I went through was the very best thing that happened in my life before becoming a mommy, because that changed me so much as a person, that really gave me like not only new eyes, but it gave me like a new life. So like the victim really stops us from seeing the blessings that are one step ahead. So like remove the victim, like looking at my choices, and it's like, okay, I attracted that. It was my choices, my food choices that attracted this. What if I change my mindset? What if I, you know, connect to a higher vibration? That is going to start attracting different people, different circumstances, different everything. And then that's why like, it's a choice to be a victim, but I don't recommend that.
No, I don't recommend that either. What I will say, and you probably share this, is it requires more than just a shift in your mind. There has to be some sort of healing that takes place on a deeper level, which really then changes who you are, not just what you think. I think, and this, you know, this goes for all kinds of victim situations. So in expressing this, I don't think anyone wants to point fingers and say, oh, it's your own fault, which of course is not what this is about. It's about realizing what is actually healthier and greater well-being for you. So you created this beautiful film, A Quest for Beauty, and very honestly and bravely shared your story. How was that? And was filmmaking something that was always part of your journey, or how did you because I don't just wake up and know how to create a movie, and that's a really well made, beautiful movie.
Thank you. Yeah, I was living in New York when I started studying filmmaking, and usually, like, my bookers from the agency is like, oh, like when you start transitioning when you are in your 30s, like, they start talking about like transitioning careers. You either become like a journalist or an actress, like a TV show presenter or something like that, to kind of like keep on your career for longer, because then you get more exposure in different areas. And then I tried that, but I was like, that's not really what I want. I've always had like these ideas. Always loved writing. And I'm like, what if I just jump behind the lens this time and start creating things and just like showing the world how I see it. And then I went to film school, but I was still lost. I'm like, what kind of stories do I want to tell? I didn't want to just like keep on making the same stories. And and I think sharing my personal story, there'll be no wrong. Nobody could tell me like, oh, your story is wrong.
And then A Quest for Beauty, when I watched it, I felt like I was seeing the world through your eyes one step at a time and your evolution of this quest for beauty. But I also felt like it was a very vulnerable thing to do. And I was also impressed with the cinematic beauty of the film. So as I said, this is not just something, you wake up, you have a certain talent, but is it something that just came to you, the editing and all the other stuff, or is it something that you were genuinely interested in?
I think it was a combination of everything, but I was lucky to, I filmed most of it myself because I traveled by myself. But then later I was able to have on my team incredible people that really helped me to navigate the editing process and the writing and putting everything together, like producers. And so again, like when you raise your vibration, the right people come in and guide you through the ins and outs that I was not familiar with because I had never done this before. But I had incredible people that guided me through the whole process.
Which is amazing. And we're glad you made this film because I think it's important for people to see how a journey can transform over time and how healing can happen. And you captured this beautifully on camera, a healing process. That's what it felt to me watching it. And it's like allowing the viewer, the intimate view, the real interview, which is the powerful perspective. So where can people watch A Quest for Beauty? How can people see this beautiful film?
So we're currently playing on PBS. So if you check on your local PBS station, they're going to have that on their schedule, or you can go on our website, which is questforbeauty-movie.com, and you have the link to rent it out. Yeah, it's just like, it was, like you said, it was very intimate and very vulnerable. And again, like I cannot thank enough the incredible people that I had in my crew that kind of like hold my hand. It's like, it's okay and it's safe to share your story. So like by sharing our stories and our vulnerability, there's so much beauty and healing in that. And I was blessed to have this opportunity. And, at times, like a big criticism that I get is like, oh, that's very easy for you because you had the means to travel the world and, go to all these amazing places and do your healing. And yes, as much as I'm super grateful and, that was like an incredible time that I had to get to know myself, the real journey happened inside. So you don't have to leave your living room. You don't have to leave your bedroom. You can do all of that in that same place. The real healing happened inside.
Can you show us what your t-shirt says, please? Inner beauty will save the world. That is so incredibly true. And it has double meaning for you because fast forward to today, you are an expecting mother. You live in and enjoy a completely different relationship. I think a very nourishing and beautiful one from what I can tell. So to me, this is a beautiful, beautiful example. As you know, we are living through this month that is called Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, which is important. We talk about it. We cannot change what we're not aware of. But your journey to me is a beautiful testament. And in that, I want to ask you, what in the world inspired you to connect with us this spring when we got an email from you, which was a beautiful, and I can share this too, a beautiful story of synchronicity and perfect example of how things connect. But what in the world made you go from, here I had this modeling career, here I am a filmmaker, create this beautiful film. Now I reach out to these weird, crazy people that inspired what happened there?
Oh, John, it's just like these incredible things that happen in life, because when we delivered the film to PBS, and I knew that I just needed a break for myself. So then we went to Brazil, and we were in Brazil, and I'm like, okay, I feel like now I'm ready to start on something else. Like I would like to do work for someone else, because, you know, like doing my creations is amazing, but I've always wanted to work with other people and collaborate. And then I've been watching your channel for like a good almost 3 years, like 2.5, almost 3 years. And then I had just watched one of your videos. I don't remember which one it was. And
I know exactly which one it was. It was the one about the fake breast milk.
That's the one. Okay, that's the one. And we were like talking about like getting pregnant and all of that. And I'm like, that, you know, there you go. Like I think like these are the people that I would love to work for. And I had just gotten like an amazing opportunity to work with other people that were kind of like men getting pregnant and other stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't do this. And then
I can relate.
And then I was like, I'm just going to reach out to them. You know, what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to read my email, or they're going to read it. It's like, no, not interested. And then I emailed you. And then I think it was like within the same day that Christine, she wrote me back. She's like, oh, what do you have in mind? Are you available to chat? I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, baby, they just replied to me. And they're like, they who? I didn't even know that I had reached out. But it was incredible. And then 2 days later, I was already editing your videos. And I was like, oh my God, speaking of like connecting to like a higher frequency and really like attracting things that align with us. So yeah,
I want to share our side of the story. First of all, I want to say we have never been happier. This is a match made in heaven. We love Chris because our intention is always when we work with people, it's not just about the skill, right? The skill is important. Like anything that we do, the skill is important. But what to me matters is that we have an energetic alliance, that we have a vibrational alliance here. So it's not just you're amazing at editing, but we share a lot of the same spirit, the same visions, and what we desire for ourselves and the world. And so I remember we left for the retreat here in Florida, and we're here in the same place, which is why this is beautiful, full circle moment here. And when we left, I remember thinking, by the end of this month, I want to have a wonderful editor on our team, because until then we were doing everything ourselves and it was getting just too much. And I put out the vision exactly of what we desired and wanted. And I told nobody about it. I didn't post about it. I didn't ask anyone. I didn't even ask for all the people that we know in this sphere. We could have asked. We didn't. I just put it out there. And I said, this is by the end of the month, this is done. And literally midway through the month, Chris's email came in. We were in the car, and I think Christine responded within an hour, maybe tops, because we were so excited. And you could feel the energy. You could just feel the energy through your words. And I think we talked the next day, and as you said, 2 days later, you were editing the first video. It's a beautiful synchronicity story, and you can't plan these things like people do, or you want to replicate them. It's just following inspiration, intuition, doing the right thing at the right time. And to me, this is a perfect example. Your whole story is a huge inspiration, because it seems like every step of the way you trusted a new intuition, and you went with it, and it brought you to this beautiful place of becoming a mother, of being in a beautiful relationship, of hopefully doing what you're enjoying also, as part of the inspired family. What is your advice to people that find themselves in a situation similar to yours, in an abusive situation, in a situation where life seems bleak or it seems very rough?
Over the years, I've talked to so many women about this, and everyone has a different circumstance. There are women that they have children, and then they become super dependent on their partners because they want that, because it's easier. Like when you fully depend on them, is less likely that you're going to leave them, and that's what they want. But find your support group. Like, find people that you can trust, and most importantly, listen to what this says. It doesn't matter what this person is saying to you. Is really like a projection. Whatever names or whatever brainwashing that they're doing to you, just know that this is their shortcomings. It doesn't have anything to do with you. And just regain your strength by first shielding yourself from all that negativity, so then you can rebuild your confidence from inside out and start vibrating higher. Because the people that are going to be able to help you, they're going to show up, but you need to be in a higher state of consciousness. You need to be vibrating a little higher, and I know it's hard because there's the shame, there's the guilt. It's like, oh, I've done this, and this person is so right. And then we just end up in this crazy circle of blame game, and that doesn't help anybody. But remember that is their projection. It doesn't have anything to do with you, because happy people want to see happy people. And I'll never forget what my attorney said in court, when I was freaking out before entering the courtroom. He grabbed me by my arm and he's like, remember, Chris, hurt people hurt people. So that was it was almost like I felt compassion for him, and compassion instead of pity or anger or hatred has a higher vibration. So even if you can find that compassion, that I know is hard, but find that, because this is who we really are. We are love, we are compassion, we are this oneness. So find that, because we all have it inside of ourselves. Find it again. It lives right here.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for your beautiful work. Of course, we will share the link in the video description to your movie. Everyone, please go watch it. It's from so many perspectives. It's such a beautiful piece of art in all perspectives. And Chris, if people want to connect with you, are there social media channels? Are there ways to see what else you're doing?
Yeah, I've been a little away from social media lately.
Good for you.
The only social media that I still engage with is WhatsApp and YouTube. But I always respond to emails. I try to keep up with that, because I feel like it's a more intimate conversation, as opposed to sometimes other people jump in and they end up saying stuff that is not really progressing the conversation. But yeah, on questforbeauty-movie.com, you're gonna find the email to connect, and it'll be nice to get an email from people.
Wonderful. If you watched a movie, when you watched a movie, please reach out. Let Chris know. As creators, you wouldn't believe how beautiful this is for all of us to hear and get what you got out of it. It's beautiful to read that and to hear that. Chris, thank you again for taking the time today. Congratulations. Life is about to change in the most beautiful ways. It's already changing for you. You know this, but as parents of three, all the most beautiful things are ahead of you. You know this, and we look forward to wonderful collaboration here in the Inspired family. We're so excited and thankful to have you, Chris.
Oh my God, it's such an honor to be part of this family. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.